You're listening to Sox in the Basement, a production of the Broadcast Basement Limited, where every show is 30 minutes of good and comes from a basement bar on the south side of Chicago. Pull up a stool, pour a cold one, and join us right now for Sox in the Basement. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always at soxinthebasement.com. I got an old man injury.
An old man injury.
Old man injury.
You didn't hurt an old man.
No.
You're injured like an old man.
No, I'm injured like an old man. I mean, in the most embarrassing way. Like, if you think it's embarrassing for poor Mike Talkman to, first of all, decide of all places he'd go play baseball, he wants to play on the south side of Chicago. That's embarrassing. All right, but then to come back from an injury and try to score a tying run the other night and pull up lane coming around third base and get tagged out as you collapse to the ground. Like, that's disheartening. You feel bad. You know, he got an old man injury. And he's young enough.
That's an old man injury.
It's an old man injury is what that is. It's like you stretch enough, you're aging, your body gives out on you, whatever. That's an old man injury. Now, he's an athlete, and he's not as old as me, but that's what that is when that happens. So that's what I describe as old man injuries. Things that, like, your body used to be able to do, and now suddenly can't. And that's how you feel. So Wednesday night, I went out to the north side to an event. Now, I don't want to get into this too much, but, like, you know, I'm single. I was dating somebody for a while there. And for the last couple months, it's just been kind of like, well, sometimes I go on a date. Sometimes I have a dry spell for a couple of weeks. I'm just a single guy who's 47 years old, raising 3 kids. And I decided to go to a speed dating event on the north side. And I went up there. I haven't been to one of these in like 2 months. And I go up there and it's raining on Wednesday. Remember how bad Wednesday was? It was pouring rain.
Yeah, it was ugly. It was nasty out.
Traffic was terrible. It took me an hour and a half to get to where I was going. An hour and a half from the south side to get to where I was going up on the north side. And when I get to the place, it turns out they have 2 locations, so I'm in the wrong place. And I was like, oh, I got here just in time. Nope,
oh, really?
I didn't. Still 15 minutes away. So, because that's what they do on the north side. They'll have a bar, and they'll have 3 of them named the same thing in different locations on the north side, and you're supposed to know which one it is. That's why I hate the north side.
Well, yes, that is absolutely true. They can't just come up with another name.
Right. They have the regular one, then they have the one in Wrigleyville. Like, just knock it off. Name it something else. Like, that's the problem. Or put the name Wrigleyville in it. Like, this is why I hate going there. This is why I don't go up to the north side. So anyway, I pull up, and it's like 2 lanes with a divider and 2 lanes. This is whatever road I was on. And I don't know where the hell I am when I'm up there, okay? And I pull over and I pull into like a thing where I got to pay to park. Another thing you only have to do on the north side of Chicago. And I pay to park. And I got to cross the street in the rain. And I'm running late. And I step out because there's no light. There's no stop sign where I'm at, but I got to cross the street. I step out and a car comes speeding along, passing the car that I thought was going to be the first one to get to me. So now I'm going to be run down on the north side, which is not how I want to go. There's a lot of ways to die. Dying in the streets on the north side is at the bottom of my list. So I do that thing
that's the bottom of your list. I would think that there'd still be stuff that's worse. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but yeah, okay.
And the thing is, I did exactly what I think every single one of us has done in our lives. That little thing where you're like, I don't want to jump out of the way. I don't want to run out of the way. I'm going to do that little hop, skip, quick move thing where you kind of dart out of the way, right? Kind of like, you know,
you
2, 3 quick steps.
The car.
2, 3 quick steps get to the divider in the middle, right? In the process of doing that, my calf muscle pops. Crossing the street.
No.
I tore my left calf muscle crossing the street. Old man injury. Mike Talkman, I know you were embarrassed when you went down, going down the third base line. It is not as embarrassing as tearing your calf muscle 5 feet from the door at an event where you're going to try to pick up women. Much worse. There's nothing more embarrassing from then walking in with your whole leg completely out of commission and having to drag it from table to table. Trying to convince these ladies you're not an old man, but now you really look like an old man. Now you really look like an old man dragging your leg. So I'm done now. I told my kids when I got home, I said, I'm done. I'm going to get fat. I'm going to get a beard like Jack Black. I'm going to start wearing Hawaiian shirts and I'm just give it up. Because that's it. That was the signal. God told me you're too freaking old. Stay home, Chris. And that's what I'm going to do now. And unfortunately, all I have to do is watch the White Sox, and that's going to be a brutal summer.
Oh, no. So should Mike Talkman join you in that? Should you just start rocking Hawaiian shirts? And
you know what? All of them could join me. I mean, how many guys are injured right now? Andrew Benintendi could sit there next to me, right?
Yeah,
I mean, we got he's injured. We have Corey Lee's injured. Everybody's injured.
Corey Lee hurts his ankle somehow diving back to first.
Let me tell you something right now. You want to find something funny, go look up the White Sox current statistics, right? And you got to select all players instead of the default, so it's not just qualifying guys because you'll only get like 3-4 people. And click on the OPS column on the MLB site, and you'll see the better hitters on the team if you sort it by OPS. The top 3 guys are all injured.
Hurt.
The top 3 guys are all injured. The best active player who's not injured is Austin Slater. Remember when he said he was their top target? Now I get it.
I understand why.
He's 9 for 31, hitting 290 with I'm sorry, that's Andrew Benintendi. Slater's 5 for 20, hitting 250 with a 750 OPS. He's the best active hitter on the team currently. That's so sick. It's disgusting.
And he's in a multi-way tie for second place with the most home runs with 1.
Oh. Here's my question. There's some news here this weekend. Chase Meidroth is coming up, which I said on the last show, it has to happen sooner rather than later, and I expected him to be the first one up here. And that time, we nailed it. I said it. He's got to be here. He's got to get here soon. He should be here. He's earned it. He's a guy that you went out and you got. They wanted him to do well in spring. He faltered in spring training, but now he's going to get here. He's 8 for 30 down there in the minors with a 1050 OPS, hitting 267, on base percentage of 450 with a 600 slugging in a very small sample size.
That's after a brutal start. He had a bad start.
He had a bad first week down there. Yeah. He's done that all in the last week or so. And so he's coming up. It's interesting. He was listed as a second baseman because I've been looking at the minor league stats almost on a daily basis. They listed him as second base in their system on the MLB.com site up until today. And now he's listed as a shortstop. So we're talking right now. They have not announced, but at the moment we're recording this show, they will have already announced who's off the team, but somebody has to come off the 40-man. Maybe it's Jacob Amaya, but it could be anybody. And that's the thing that I want to talk about today. Every single player on this team with an option, or you don't have an option, would have to be DFA'd, but you're not part of the long-term plan. And that's basically everybody on this team. All these players should be eligible to go to AAA. I don't care what your name is. If you can't hit 200 by May 1st, Luis Robert Jr., go figure it out in AAA. Andrew Vaughn should be down there now. He's got options. He's got options.
Yeah.
Send him down. You know what? Start sending some freaking messages to these guys. Especially guys who were on this team last year when you set a record for losses. They show up and they're flat again out the gate. Stop coddling them. They're grown men. I saw something the other day where Azagin was talking about how he probably isn't the right kind of man. He's always going to be hung up on the fact that he wants to be a manager, but now he's probably not the right kind of manager because all these kids are wimps and they need to be hugged and coddled and everything else like that. And so that's why Will Venable makes a lot of sense, because he's a player's manager and you need to have somebody that the players like, and you can't hurt their feelings and their delicate sensibilities. Okay? Well, guess what? You're the worst team in baseball. You've been the worst team in baseball for a while now. And as the worst team in baseball, coddling them isn't working. Maybe try something new. Send Andrew Vaughn down. Send Miguel Vargas down. Does he have options? I'm going to look it up right now. Send him down. No, he doesn't. He has no options. Andrew Vaughn has 3. You've never sent him down. You've never sent him down.
Andrew Vaughn has barely spent any time in the minor leagues whatsoever.
If there was a guy who deserved to be sent to the minors to work it out, where there was a justification because you rushed him up here to send him down now to work it out, it's Andrew Vaughn. Tim Elko should be playing first base this weekend. He should have been on the bus with Chase Meidroth, or the plane. He should have been coming with him.
Oh, you don't think Jerry sprung for a plane from Charlotte, do you?
Chase Meidroth Ubered, and it was one of those shared ride things.
Yeah, it's an Uber share, yeah.
He's in there with like a guy who's just got a chicken inside of a cage that he's taking someplace, and then like a woman with a baby and a lady with 2 cats in a bag, and they're just in there with those
and the last guy
ride-overs.
from the original Kenosha Kickers,
Right. That's what he's riding along in. That's how they brought him up. That's why there was no room for Tim Elko, because you'd have had two people.
Well, Tim Elko takes up more space. He's a bigger dude.
Here's the thing, though. I mean, I don't understand why that guy isn't coming up here. Why aren't we rewarding guys who play well and punishing those that play bad? Okay.
And why aren't they just trying to bring talent in? I mean, forget about rewards and punishment. I mean, forget about crime and punishment here. In general, just you're the worst team in baseball. Find some friggin' talent. Jacob Amaya is not talented. I'm sorry.
No, he's not.
He can field, but that's not a talent.
What did we say? What did we say at the start of this entire spring, this off season? If Jacob Amaya is on your team when you break camp, you have failed this spring. You have not shown me anything that makes me confident in your organization. And what happened? You DFA'd him and brought him back, and then he made your team not as a bench player, but as a starting shortstop. It's crazy to me. Listen, before we go any further, Sox in the Basement listeners, for exterior windows, doors, patio doors, and storm doors, look no further than Window and Door Superstore of Oak Forest. No high-pressure sales. They're not in your kitchen. You're in their showroom. All the examples right there, everything in full size. No pictures in a book. See everything in person. That way you make a better decision. There's an owner in showroom and on site, and they use their own installers. They do not farm out the work. They've been doing it that way in Oak Forest since 1985 with all major brands custom made and no stock items for a perfect fit. If you're going to replace a window, a door, put in a patio door, whatever you're going to do. It's springtime. You're thinking about upgrading. You're thinking about fixing up the house. Look to Window and Door Superstore of Oak Forest, a half block east of 159th and Ridgeland at 6280 159th Street. See more at windowdooroakforest.com. Meidroth coming up is a great thing. Good. You need to bring him up. But there are other guys. Edgar Quero. Why isn't Edgar Quero even considered when you get when you get Corey Lee injured? Or why isn't Kyle Teel up here? Why do you go to Omar Narvaez? I don't understand it.
That one mystified me.
Let these kids come up and play. Edgar Quero right now, we're looking at a guy who's a good prospect, who played well before you acquired him. When you acquired him, went to AA and had a spectacular season, and is now down in AAA out the gate, having a really good start to the season at the plate. He's hitting .342. He's 13 for 38 with a .458 on base percentage. He's getting on base better than Chase Meidroth right now. .447 slugging percentage. Sorry about that. And a .905 OPS. You don't want him? You don't want to insert him into your lineup? DH, first base. You know, maybe have him catch a game or two. Maybe have him catch a game or two.
Put him behind the plate.
Right.
Put him behind the plate while Corey Lee is hurt. Okay. If you're going to lean on Matt Thaiss, fine. Okay. Lean on the veteran, but put him behind the plate while Corey Lee's hurt, and then keep him here because Nick Maton's your primary DH, and he's hitting 185 with a 740 OPS, and he should be he could be a utility guy just as easy. As Edgar Quero could establish himself as a major leaguer. A lot of teams. Yanier Diaz with the Houston Astros starts out. He's backing up Martin Maldonado. He's backing up. He's not the full-time catcher. He's DHing. He did that last year. He DH'd. He caught. And Hunter Goodman out in Colorado is the same kind of thing. He plays a little first base. He plays a little outfield. He's behind the plate. He's not necessarily an everyday catcher. They're doing that with Endy Rodriguez in Pittsburgh. Edgar Quero. There's plenty of opportunities and examples of how teams will use a young catcher and sit there and protect them from being behind the plate all the time just to get them used to the major leagues and get their bat in the lineup. And Edgar Quero is the prime example of a guy that's ready to do that, and you don't have anything on this team that is better than him.
Here's the thing. You're a bad baseball team that's going to go nowhere this year. That is an absolute fact. You're a bad baseball team. You're going nowhere. Half your fan base isn't even watching you. That's the most amazing thing. Half your fan base,
at least a quarter of those can't, because they can't afford either to stream or they don't have they don't get reception for your over the air.
Right. My father's having a problem with the rabbit ears, and doesn't want to pay Jerry Reinsdorf money to watch your product because it's so bad. So he watches baseball games with the MLB app and follows along with the play-by-play thing. That's how he watches baseball games right now.
He uses Game Day. Yeah.
Or he uses Game Day, or he sits in a bar. Like, that's what he does. That's how and he is not the only one, okay? There are a lot of people not even watching your team right now. It makes no sense to me why you are not getting some of these players that people are looking for up here to give them an opportunity. I'm not saying Edgar Quero is going to show up and hit 330, be an all-star if you bring him up. I'm not saying that. In fact, he may come up here and he may realize that he's not ready for major league pitching, but for the next 10 days or so while Corey Lee is on the IL, give him some at-bats. Give Kyle Teel some at-bats. Give Tim Elko a chance at first base. Andrew Vaughn's no good. I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense. And I think the beat reporters need to start hammering Chris Getz. Don't hammer Will Venable. All right? Will Venable was brought in. He's a first-year manager. He's being told what to do. Gosh, if I were Venable, if you were the manager and for some strange reason Chris Getz said make whatever lineup you want to, I'd be benching these guys left and right. I tell Luis Robert Jr., you go sit down next to me for a couple of games. You just sit right here, young man. You just sit here. Think about what you've done. Right. Yeah. Andrew Vaughn, you sit right next to him. Like if I were the manager of this team and I was allowed to make the lineup however I wanted to, that's what I would be doing. But I don't think he's able to do that. I think he's been brought in. It's part of an overarching philosophy. There's a reason why he's attached to Chris Getz. He's Getz's guy. He's going to do what his general manager wants him to do with the players. This falls on Chris Getz. And Chris Getz needs to start looking at this team for what it really is and understanding who these players really are. I don't care if you like the personality of Andrew Vaughn. He's nothing more than a replacement level player who's way underperforming. And I'm sorry that you made a bad trade, which, by the way, you make a lot of bad trades. Whoever is making the decisions, whoever is advising Chris Getz, unless it's Getz going off on his own, the trade returns overall have been bad since he started as general manager. Dominic Fletcher, disaster. Miguel Vargas, it was a terrible move before you made it. If you'd have called me up on the phone, I would have told you it was a bad idea. Okay? If you had gotten somebody honestly within the Dodgers organization to tell you, what do you really think of this guy? To be like, well, there's a reason why he isn't playing on our team. There's a reason he's available. So he makes bad trades, and they're sticking. They do move on from guys quicker than Hahn and Williams. You got to give them that. But at this point, if you can send a guy down, send him down. If you can bench a guy, bench him. If you've got a guy who's hitting well down in AAA, give him a chance. What's the worst that could happen? He comes up and does the same thing? What's the worst thing that Tim Elko could do right now? Come up and hit 160? You already got that. But
it's all over the place.
But what if he comes up and he makes something of his opportunity? What if you bring up, I mean, I thought it was really interesting. You brought up an outfielder that's not performing in AAA almost because you didn't want to bring up one of the guys that you recently took off the 40-man roster. You had to purchase the contract of Joshua Palacios. All right. He's hitting 231 down in the minors. You could have purchased the contract of Corey Jokes, who's hitting 429, and maybe he's figured it out. If Corey Jokes isn't the guy you're bringing up, then clearly you're never going to see him again. You're never going to see him.
What is Corey Jokes doing?
He's a body down in the minor leagues that was just there for filler, is what you're saying now at that point, if you're going to do it. And that's fine. If that's how you evaluate him, that's fine. But that's what you're telling me. But what I would like is a team that's reactive and holds players accountable and makes decisions that have some reason behind them. You get your catcher who goes down injured, and you've got two highly ranked prospects in AAA, one of which is performing really well, and the other one is on maybe one bad week, but if you look at his spring and the start to his minor league season, performed really well. And you pass them both up for what is a journeyman minor league catcher that you're going to bring up to fill that spot. I want to know the justification for that. It makes no sense to me. In a lost season, with the ability to start getting some of these guys up here and giving them a taste. And the only argument that you're ever you're going to hear people sit there and say, well, you're starting the clock on them. Well, dude, shut up with that stuff. Shut up with the starting the clock on guys. All right? Your team is so bad right now. There is absolutely no way that you are going to be able to start the clock simultaneously on 27 players, 26 players. And they're all going to come up here in the majors at the same time, and it's all going to work out. It's the stupidest thing in the world. When a guy is ready, bring him up. When a guy has done enough that he should be the next man up when there's an injury, then he should come up and he should get an opportunity to play. That music means none other than the Sox Nerd is ready to go here on Sox in the Basement. Dave Marin puts all of those tidbits up on the scoreboard at the rate, and he's here now with us as he is every weekend to share some more with you listeners. And he's brought to you by the Village of Lamont. Want to experience a downtown with real history, great eats and drinks, and green spaces filled with adventure? Visit the Village of Lamont. Shop, dine, drink, explore. Check out the second season of Lamont Unlocked, the podcast from the Broadcast Basement On Demand Radio Network, featuring myself and Tess, who will be exploring a bunch of new places in Lamont starting next week. See it all at LamontDowntown.com. Nerd, what do you got for me?
Chris, let's talk about the White Sox and the Rule 5 draft, shall we? Why? Well, with all of the team's early season struggles, last December's Rule 5 draft has been one of the best things that's happened to the 2025 Sox so far. A refresher, players eligible for the annual December draft are those who were signed at age 18 or 19 and not added to their club's 40-man roster within 4 or 5 seasons. It's a mechanism to prevent clubs from hoarding or stashing players. The catch is, Rule 5 draftees have to stay on the big league roster for 1 season or be offered back to their original team. Last December, the Sox had the top pick in the Rule 5 draft, the reward for having the worst record, and selected right-handed pitcher Shane Smith from the Brewers organization. The Phillies took another right-handed pitcher, Mike Vasil, at number 15 from the Mets and traded him to the Rays. At the end of spring training, the Sox claimed Vasil off waivers from the Rays. These bargain basement pickups have done well through the first 2 weeks of the season. Smith fashioned 2 solid starts, and the encouraging thing was that Start 2 was better than Start 1. In Start 2, Smith threw 5 no-hit innings in Cleveland. He joined Dane Dunning, Dan Wright, Roberto Hernandez, and Wilson Alvarez as the only Sox rookies since 1973 with a start of at least 5 no-hit innings. In the process, Smith struck out hit machine Stephen Kwan twice on 3 pitches in becoming the first pitcher to do that. How about this one? Smith is the first pitcher to throw at least 11 2/3 innings in his first 2 MLB games and allow no more than 4 total bases since Shovel Hodge did it for the 1920 White Sox. This is something only 13 pitchers have accomplished. I'll save the deep dig on Shovel, who earned his nickname by working as a railroad fireman, for a future episode, but it's interesting to note he is the only Sox pitcher to throw 10 innings in a major league debut. As for Vasil, he is the only reliever in White Sox history to throw at least 7 shutout innings over his first 3 big league appearances. The previous best was 6 1/3 innings by Hector Santiago, Salome Barojas, and Roger Nelson. Success in the Rule 5 draft isn't foreign to the White Sox since the event started in the early 1900s. Players like Yermin Mercedes, Omar Narvaez, Greg Walker, Bobby Bonilla, and Ed Herman were all Rule 5 picks by the White Sox. Before I get to my zinger, I remind you that gems like these and long-form pieces are on my blog, which you can link to at soxinthebasement.com. My zinger? In honor of the 20th anniversary of the World Champions, I'm going to zing frequently about that team, throwing out some gems you may not know about the 2005 Sox. The most important Rule 5 connection to the 05 champs was in the person of Juan Uribe. The Sox used Aaron Miles, a Rule 5 pickup in the minor league draft in 2000, to get Uribe from the Rockies in a one-on-one trade on December 2nd, 2003. That's it, Chris. More than you probably wanted to know about the Rule 5 draft, Smith, Vasil, the Urinator, and Shovel Hodge.
if you're worried about starting the clock on Kyle Teel, okay, and you're thinking back to when it was a huge controversy. Remember when Chris Bryant basically was going to have the Players Association sue the Cubs for playing with his clock. And you had that, though, because the Cubs were looking at it going, we already have the seeds of a good team in place. We're already going somewhere. And Chris Bryant was going to be the cherry on top of it. He was their top prospect. He was the guy that was going to lead them to the promised land. And he did, by the way. They did win a World Series with that core. And this was a guy, though, they already had Anthony Rizzo up there. Kyle Schwarber was already up there. They already had the pitching staff basically in place. They had guys there. They were playing with the time from one of their top prospects because their window was open. Their championship window was coming. This team is so far away, it doesn't really matter. Bring up whoever is performing because it just doesn't matter what the clock is.
And and if you DFA a guy, nobody wants him. There's nobody on your team right now with the exception of a couple guys, couple players that somebody might pick up. But the majority of your team, if you were to DFA a player, you say Lenyn Sosa down, nobody is going to claim him. Nobody's going to say, oh gosh, I want to make some room on my 40-man to bring on this guy. He hasn't done anything. You DFA Jacob Amaya down. Guess what? He's still going to be there. Nobody's picking him up. Nobody wants him. He's going to make it back down to AAA. Look, Ed, if it were me right now, and this is what they should be doing. What they should be doing is they should be rewarding those that are performing in the first couple of weeks and sending a message to those that came out of the gate slow and are about to have the same season that we saw last year. They have to say, no, we will not put up with this. If you're a slug, then you don't get to play on this team. If you're a bum, you don't get to play on a team. If it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, guess what, folks? It's a duck. Miguel Vargas is a duck. He's bad. Andrew Vaughn is a duck. He's at best a replacement level player, and right now he's far worse than that. And guess what? Luis Robert Jr. is not the star you were promised because he doesn't have it in him to be good unless everything's going good around him. And I don't care if you don't agree with me on it. I'm right. You're wrong. He is what he is. Now, you're not going to send him down because somebody would want him. And, that's not going to happen. He'll stay on the team. But some of these other guys, like right now, what I would do is I'd have Andre Lipschitz up here and I'd have Chase Meidroth up here and they'd be in the middle of my infield right now. I would just start jettisoning guys out of this infield. I'd have Tim Elko, Andre Lipschitz, and Chase Meidroth on this roster right now. That's what I would be doing. I would just be jettisoning guys off this team.
I'd have Jared Schuster up here starting in place of Jonathan Cannon. I would have Mike Clevenger out on the streets because he's walked 7 guys.
Jonathan Cannon's not good enough. He needs to go back down.
Or he needs to go to the bullpen. He's got 14 strikeouts, which is impressive, but he can't be a starting pitcher on this team anymore. You have a closer that you could very easily DFA because really nobody wants him. In fact, nobody wanted him going into spring.
Nobody wanted him.
And he blew a game the other night by walking in a run. That's your closer?
Yeah. Get rid of him. Josh Rojas, when he gets back, he can stand at third. Like my infield next week is Elko, Lipschitz, Meidroth, and Rojas. Because I don't care about any of these guys. Because they suck.
No.
Because they suck.
No.
They suck. Okay? If you suck, you shouldn't get to play on the team. That should be your number one policy on a baseball team should be that. Your number one policy on any sports team should be that. If you're not good, you don't get to play.
Don't play. Yeah.
Like that's what it was. That's what it was like for me.
That happens in Little League still.
Right. When I was a child and I wasn't good, I didn't get to play. That's how that works, right? Like the better players get to play more and the bad players don't play. Why is it different? Why is it different on the White Sox? Why? It's not like anybody on this team, with the exception of just a couple. I mean, Andrew Benintendi makes $15 million a year, but he's playing well. Luis Robert Jr. makes $15 million a year, and you're not going to get rid of him, and you're waiting for him to turn around, so I guess you treat him differently. But with the exception of everybody else, nobody on this team makes enough money in which you should be embarrassed or upset that you stop playing them. Nobody's got a contract on this team that makes you look dumb for saying, well, we're not going to use him because he's not playing well. If they're not playing well, don't play them. Start having some accountability. You want to build something new on the South Side. You want to change the attitude of the team. You want to build a White Sox way. You want your fan base to start believing that things are being run properly. Accountability is still the number one thing. And it's always been the biggest problem on the White Sox. For the longest time, it was accountability of people that worked in the front office. For the longest time. Okay? Now, it's truly accountability on the field. The White Sox still have a massive accountability problem that not every team in Major League Baseball has. The Tampa Bay Rays would not put up with this junk. They wouldn't.
And they don't.
They wouldn't.
They don't.
The Tampa Bay Rays would take everybody on this team and either trade them for something else. Their scouting department would already be identifying some prospect that's being undervalued someplace, and they'd be moving one of these guys for him, or they'd be sending him down to the minors, or they'd be releasing him. There are other organizations in this sport that don't give this much rope to their players. And the amount of rope given to some of these guys. And it goes back to the thing. I got this brought up to me the other day. Dad called me up on the phone. He was ranting. He's on vacation. He was ranting about the White Sox. This is what you do to my poor father. Man in his 70s, trying to enjoy his vacation down in Florida. Rented a house for a month. This is something him and Mom do. We're going down to visit him in a week or so. James Fox is going to come in from Future Sox and fill in for me for a couple of shows because I'll be down there. This man's just trying to enjoy his life. He's just trying to rest. He's trying to enjoy a sunset. Hold hands with his wife, of almost 50 years. Just try to enjoy the golden years at the end. And he's on the phone with me yelling about the White Sox. And he brought it up. He goes, because I was talking about the accountability. He goes, that's the biggest problem. And the problem is how they view their players. How many times have we all gotten one of those emails from them that don't ask you, do you think this player is good at baseball? But ask you whether or not you like them as a person. That's the problem with the White Sox. Right there. That's the problem with the White Sox. We've all gotten these surveys. Do you feel like you connect with this player?
No.
How well do you know this player?
I don't.
Do you think he's a good guy? And my
no clue.
And my answer to that is, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care if he gives the charity or kicks puppies. Does he hit 330? That's all I care about. I'm sorry. I don't care. I want my baseball players to play baseball well. And this team is constantly trying to connect with what do you think of his personality? You like his smile? I don't care. Just
bring on the puppy kickers.
Find me guys that hit home runs, hit for average, play defense well, show up every day ready to play, win ball games. That's all I want. And you could change the front office around, but there is still a cancer inside of that organization. You did not cut it out enough because the cancer of no accountability still exists within the White Sox. And I don't know how it ever gets fixed. It is the weirdest thing to me that you cannot hold players accountable. Andrew Vaughn, hold him accountable. Miguel Vargas, hold him accountable. Luis Robert Jr., put him on the bench for 4 days and embarrass him in the press. Where's Ozzie Guillen throwing a player under a bus? I need it. I need it from my manager right now. That Ozzie's saying, I don't know if I mesh real well with these players. You know what? I'd love to have an Ozzie personality in there, if not Ozzie. I know some people have a problem with him, but man, oh man, he wouldn't put up with this stuff. He'd be talking about how Luis Robert Jr. is playing like a dog out there. He's dogging it. He'd be like, I don't understand. He's supposed to be a superstar. He'd be saying that. He'd be making fun of him. Oh, my superstar, my 160 hitting superstar. He'd be making fun of him.
Well, don't you remember when Ozzie made fun of Carlos Lee, who was an extremely productive hitter?
Right. And he wasn't good enough for Ozzie.
No.
Okay. And before you say, well, you can't do that, he's got a World Series ring. Right. And everybody in that building's got nothing. Okay. All these guys trying to do it this way have accomplished nothing. He accomplished something. And this way isn't working. It's just not working, Ed. It's not. I know I sound like an old man yelling at a cloud. Just like I'm an old man who pulls his calf muscle and limps into a bar. Looks like a fool, right?
An old man limps into a bar and wants Andrew Vaughn to start kicking puppies and hitting home runs.
Right. You know what? He doesn't have it in him to kick puppies or hit home runs.
No.
He's probably got.
And actually, most of the guys on this team, if they tried to kick a puppy, would just pull a hamstring.
Okay, listen. First of all, before we get destroyed, like on social media or something like that, which by the way I don't read, so you can destroy.
Right,
I don't read. I don't have any social media on my phone. I took it all off. I don't even look at the accounts. I don't. I post the shows and I move on with life. All right, life is too short.
I'm actually just purely AI. Right. I don't really exist in the real world.
I just don't feel like it. Okay, but before we get ripped apart, don't kick puppies.
No, nobody should kick a puppy.
I have a puppy. I've never kicked a puppy. Don't kick puppies.
Kick puppies.
That said, I don't care whether or not I like my baseball player. I just want him to win.
Right.
And I don't care whether or not him and his wife look cute in pictures or he just had a kid. I don't care if he bought a new house or if he's starting something for kids after school and youth programs. If he's hitting 190, none of that matters to me. Go be a social worker instead of a baseball player. Your number one primary job, just like I would tell my kids all the time. Like my daughter's off in college, she calls me up and she goes, I got this going on, that going on, this going on, that going on. I always go, you know what your number one job is? School. Make sure you're doing that. I say that to my junior over at Brother Rice, my son. Well, I got water polo, I got robotics club, I got this, I got that, I got this thing going on. Yeah? Homework first. It's your number one job. Number one job of White Sox players should be hitting the baseball, catching the baseball, pitching the baseball, and doing it well. And if you're not doing that, you don't belong on my team, and you definitely don't belong as an everyday starter on my team. And until I start seeing that accountability, why am I going to jump through hoops to watch this crap on television? Because you haven't made that easy either as a team, have you?
Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement.
Sox in the Basement. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found and always on soxinthebasement.com.